Welcome to Nobody Told Me. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens. If you're a fan of the Full House or Fuller House television shows, then you're very familiar with our guest on this episode, Andrea Barber. She plays the character Kimmy Gibbler on those shows, and in doing so, she's endeared herself to millions of fans around the world.
But Andrea's life hasn't been all laughs. She's struggled with depression and anxiety, among other things, and she openly writes about it in her new book, Full Circle, From Hollywood to Real Life and Back Again. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, gals. Thanks so much for having me. That was a very nice intro. Thank you for that. I'm blushing.
It's much deserved. You know, you play the outrageous, wacky neighbor and friend to the Tanner family on Full House and Fuller House. How old were you when you were cast on that show?
You know, I was only 10 years old. Actually, I was 9 when I did the audition, and then I was 10 when we actually started doing the show. And it was only supposed to be a one-time appearance. Like this to me, I had no foreshadowing or no idea of the phenomenon that Full House would become, because this was just supposed to be a guest appearance for me, a one-time thing. And luckily the producers remembered me and were like, hey, this could be more than just a one-time thing. And I came back for a few more episodes that first season, and then I came back for even more episodes the second season, and then before I knew it, I was a series regular. At age 10, which is weird because my kids are older than that. I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I thought, I can't imagine either of them doing this at this point. It's kind of crazy to think in terms of the time lapse. You know, I'm just like, wow, that's. I was very, very young, and I didn't realize it at the time. But yeah, age 10, and now I'm 43. So it's been a good chunk of my life that I've identified with this character.
But you say you don't really relate to Kimmy Gibbler, or at least you didn't used to her personality. And I thought that was fascinating because you seem like you would be exactly like Kimmy. How are you different from her in real life?
I couldn't be more different than Kimmy. And ask any cast member on Full House or Fuller House, and they'll tell you that of all the cast members, I'm the one that's the most different from his or her character. And that's just because Kimmy Gibbler is just so outgoing and extroverted and wears these bright clothing and mismatched patterns, and she just goes for it. She's so confident. And I didn't feel like that at all growing up. I've always been very introverted. I still am. I'm kind of a quiet personality, and I don't wear bright clothes. I tend to want to blend in and not stand out. And I definitely didn't feel confident growing up. I was very much a typical teenage girl with braces and a bad 90s perm and dealing with all of the insecurities that a lot of teenage girls deal with. So, I didn't identify with Kimmy Gibbler growing up. But then when I came back 5 years ago to do this character again and to create the adult version of Kimmy Gibbler for Fuller House, you know, I just love her so much. Like, she was such an annoying character as a teenager, but as an adult, she's very endearing and very confident, and she just embraces life and love and laughter, and I think there's something very inspiring about that, and it's a quality of Kimmy Gibbler that I never appreciated as a child, but now I absolutely appreciate as an adult. And I've heard that from a lot of people, that growing up they admired Kimmy's confidence, and Kimmy Gibbler is a person who taught them that it's okay to be different and it's okay to be weird, and that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It makes you special. Actually, it's a good thing. And I think those are some great lessons. You know, I never thought this deeply as a teenager, but as a woman in my 40s, you know, I can think about it more critically and think, yeah, you know what? Kimmy Gibbler is a great role model. And those are words I never thought I would say 33 years ago.
You know, I'm wondering if, because you are naturally introverted as a young person, it sort of helped you hide, being able to be so extroverted in the character. Did the character kind of help you hide? And I don't know, just is that something that you tapped into?
I don't know if hide is the right word, but there is definitely something very freeing about being not yourself,
yeah.
about becoming someone else. And I think a lot of actors can relate to that, in that it's awesome. It's this wonderful, freeing feeling to get on stage and to be someone completely different. It's an awesome feeling, and I think I'm almost more comfortable on stage than I am off stage sometimes. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just there's something about just inhabiting a personality that's not your own and being unafraid to do that because you won't be judged for it because it's not you. It's not personal. People can love it or hate it, and it's not personal. It's just a character. And so I don't know if I hid behind that, but I definitely felt a lot of freedom in performing a character that's so different than my own personal personality.
Why did you choose to leave Hollywood after Full House ended?
Great question. I didn't know I was going to leave Hollywood. It's not like I had shut the door and just said, all right, that's it, I'm done. I just wanted to explore something new for a while. And Full House ended when I was 18. I was a freshman in college, and this was a perfect opportunity for me to try something different. And I was excited for this adulthood. I was excited to move into the dorm, move out of my parents' house and feel this freedom and just explore all different topics and meet new people and I was just a student. This sounds weird, but I was a student and only a student for the first time in my life because I had been acting and going to regular public school since I was 5 years old. And so I had never just done one thing at a time. And so college was my chance to just be a student, and I loved it. And I fell in love with English literature, and I fell in love with studying abroad when I went to Copenhagen my junior year, and I spent 4 months there, and I developed all these new passions. I found all of these new passions, and I thought, this is so cool. And when I graduated from college, I kind of panicked. I think every new graduate is like, oh, crap, what am I going to do now? That was a big, it was like a reality check. And I thought at one point, I'm like, well, maybe I'll just do what I've always done and try acting again. And, the first time I got a call to go on an audition, my heart just was not in it. I thought, there's not one part of me that wants to drive out to Hollywood and do this again. There's way too many other things that I'm passionate about to go back. It just didn't feel right. It didn't feel right when I was, 22, 23 years old. And so I started a career in international education, and I helped American students find opportunities to study abroad in all different countries, Australia, Spain, England, all over the world. And I found that very fulfilling. And I got married, and I had 2 kids, and I stayed home with those kids for almost a decade. And I found that very fulfilling as well. Like I kept finding new seasons of my life that were appropriate for that time period. And it wasn't until 5 years ago when I got the phone call from Jeff Franklin, the creator of Full House and Fuller House. He said, "Hey, I have an idea. What do you think? I have an idea for a spinoff he didn't use the word spinoff. He just had a continuation of the Full House series. I want to, it's not a spinoff because a spinoff is more about you take one character and you spin it off in that direction. But this was really going in the same direction that Full House was. It's a continuation of the stories that we started in 1987. And I hopped right on board. I was like, yeah, this is it. This was such a wonderful time in my life doing Full House. I couldn't possibly pass it up and say no because I knew it would be so fulfilling and enjoyable to get to work with these people again. That's a long-winded answer to your question of, why did I leave Hollywood? I never felt the need to go back until I found a reason to, and Fuller House was my reason to go back. And I have no regrets. It was, it's been one of the biggest blessings in my life.
Our Nobody Told Me conversation continues in just a minute after we tell you about a way you might be able to save money on life insurance.
Look in the mirror. You look good. You're doing everything right for your health today. But if you're not planning for the what ifs of tomorrow, then it's time you do.
The problem is, historically and rather ironically, people who are health conscious have overpaid and subsidized those who are less health conscious. It's not a conspiracy. It's just how life insurance works.
Introducing Health IQ. Health IQ uses science and data to secure lower rates for people like you on their life insurance.
If you're a runner or a cyclist, or you're into CrossFit or another type of athlete, even a committed weekend warrior, if you're a vegetarian or vegan, then you deserve to be rewarded for your hard work with more affordable life insurance rates.
And Health IQ can save you up to 41% because physically active people have significantly lower risks for heart disease, cancer, and diabetes.
And Health IQ is not just a lead generator. They take the customer through the entire process of applying, and the policy is underwritten by one of their top insurance partners.
But these savings are exclusive to Health IQ. You won't find them anywhere else, and you must qualify to get a special rate.
To see if you qualify, go to healthiq.com/nobodytoldme to take the proprietary Health IQ quiz. Depending upon your score, as well as other related qualifying factors, you can save up to 41% on your life insurance premiums compared to other providers.
Again, that's healthiq.com/nobodytoldme to let them know we sent you and start the process with the Health IQ quiz. There's no commitment, and you'll learn even more about potential opportunities to be rewarded for your commitment to healthy living.
What was responsible for making the Full House cast become so close and making the audience feel like we were a part of the family too?
I don't know. That is a great question, and I don't know if anyone's ever really been able to crack that code. Some of it might be luck in that we all had personalities that just really meshed together. I think the adults on the show, Bob Saget, Dave Coulier, John Stamos, Lori Loughlin, they were all just good people at heart. You know, they were great mentors, and they were fun, and they were funny, and they liked to have a good time. They kept things lighthearted on the set. Nobody was a diva. You know, it was just a fun atmosphere to grow up in, and that's where Candace, Jody, and I learned everything about how to hold a set, you know, how to interact with kids that are on the show. You treat them like family members. You treat them like one of your own. You put their interests, you place their interests on an equal level with everybody else's. And you know, there was no apparent hierarchy, if that makes sense. Like, we all just felt like one big family. There wasn't like, you know, the kids couldn't approach the adults or anything. You know, we all just hung out on that blue plaid couch together. And yeah, I think that chemistry that you see on screen was real on screen and off screen. And so that, I don't know what it is. It's obviously transcended many decades. You know, we're still just as close as we were 30 years ago, and that's kind of the type of family that everybody wants to grow up in.
Yeah.
You know, a family that's not necessarily related by blood, but a family that is together by choice, and that's a very appealing concept to a lot of people out there. And so maybe that's why the audience feels as close as they do to the Full and Fuller House cast. I don't know. That's my best guess, though.
Did you stay in touch with everybody from Full House in the years between Full House and Fuller House? Were you guys actually great friends?
We were, yeah. We've never stopped being in touch. And, you know, there were some years where we wouldn't talk as often, obviously, just because of distance. You know, and Candace Cameron Bure, she married Val Bure, her hockey player husband, and so she moved. You know, she was in Canada for a while, and then they were in Florida when he was playing for the Florida Panthers. So she moved around a lot, so we didn't actually see each other in person a whole lot. But, you know, thanks to the rise of social media right around that same time, you know, God bless Facebook, we were all able to keep in touch and, you know, stay in touch at least through, you know, our smartphones or email or Facebook or things like that, even though we didn't see each other as much in person anymore, but we still always kept in touch. And, you know, that's what I'm going to miss the most about Fuller House is seeing those girls every single day. You know,
oh yeah,
it's harder with, you know, our lives and schedules and jobs and kids. It's hard to see each other every day, and so that's what I'm going to miss the most, because that's where we have the most fun, is when we're together in person.
What do your own kids think when they watch Mom on TV as a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old or a teenager?
Oh man. Well, they didn't know for a long time. I just never thought to tell them that I grew up as a child actor until, my son was in first or second grade, and he came home from school one day and he was like, Mom, how come everyone at school has seen Full House except for me, and I'm your son? And I'm like, oh. I didn't think my kids would be interested. They were into Blue's Clues and cartoons, and, I didn't think they would be interested in Full House for a long time. But, yeah, of course they were interested because they wanted to see what their mom looked like, as a kid. Awkward teenager. So, I turned it on, and we taped a few episodes, and they were just embarrassed. They were like, oh, my God, Mom, what are you wearing? They were embarrassed by my wardrobe, and I said, yeah, kids, same. Right. I was embarrassed, too, having to wear those clothes. So, yeah, I know they're proud, but they were also very embarrassed to see their mom looking so awkward on TV. But they love it now. They're older now, and they have more perspective, and once I went back to Hollywood and started Fuller House, they came to set with me, and so they got to actually see how it all happens. You don't know until you've been there and done it. That you think, oh, it takes 30 minutes to tape a 30-minute sitcom, but no, it takes a lot longer than that. And so now that they've seen the amount of work that goes into it and what I actually do, they have a whole new appreciation for it, and they love it. They think it's cool. I don't know. My 15-year-old might disagree. He sometimes is just like, oh, Mom, stop being embarrassing. But I know he thinks it's cool.
And like we mentioned, Kimmy Gibbler is just such a happy, over-the-top person. And so I was really surprised to hear that you had struggled with depression and anxiety, which are things I've struggled with, but I don't think I come off like Kimmy Gibbler on the surface. Talk to us a little bit about your struggle and, why you decided to go public with this.
Well, I decided to go public because I'm not ashamed of it. It's not, it's not something I need to. It's not something I feel I need to keep hidden, or it's not a shameful secret or anything. When I was in the thick of it, yeah, I was very ashamed of it, and I felt really bad about myself for a long time. So I wasn't talking to anybody about it. Mm-hmm. But there's something about overcoming a really hard time in your life and coming through on the other side, and having learned all of the lessons I've learned, and notably having the audience that I have right now. I've got people who are willing to listen to what I have to say, and I don't take that for granted. I feel really fortunate that I have the platform that I have. And so I thought, you know what, this is important. Like, I wish somebody had spoken out about postpartum depression and anxiety when I was in the thick of it. I wish it was more talked about back when I was going through it. So I want to talk about it. I want to be open about it. I want people to know that it doesn't matter if you're a celebrity. It doesn't matter if you came from a good home, a good upbringing, and had all sorts of advantages in life. Depression and anxiety can strike anybody. And so, I guess that's why I decided to talk about it. In addition to always wanting to write a book, this has been something I've wanted to do my entire life, is to write my story down and publish a book about it. And it feels great having done that, and it's still very surreal that people are responding to it, and they're sending me messages, wonderful messages about how they can relate to the struggles I've been through and how it helped them in some way. It's been very, very validating and very exciting. This is something I've been wanting to talk about for a long time. So it's not like I'm coming out with this tell-all or this, this shameful secret. No, this is just me. Like, this is me. I'm Andrea. I'm Kimmy Gibbler. I'm anxious. This is all of me. And if, I want people to get to know me for me and not just the crazy character who wears neon tights and mismatched patterns on TV.
Our Nobody Told Me conversation continues in just a moment. Much like our extraordinary guests on Nobody Told Me, many Air Medcare Network members have their own inspiring stories to share.
They never thought the unthinkable would actually happen to them. But when it did, they were relieved to have their Air Medcare Network, AMCN, membership.
If a medical emergency arises, Air Medcare Network provides members with world-class air transport services to the nearest appropriate hospital with no out-of-pocket expenses.
More and more, insurance fails to cover the full cost of a medical emergency. Secure protection and financial peace of mind for your entire household by joining Air Medcare Network today. Memberships cost as low as $65 a year and cover 38 states.
Plus, right now, as a Nobody Told Me listener, you'll get a $10 Visa gift card with a new 1-year membership.
Visit airmedcarenetwork.com/nobody and use offer code NOBODY.
Again, for a $10 Visa gift card with a new 1-year membership, just visit airmedcarenetwork.com/nobody and use offer code NOBODY.
Tell us more about how you were first aware of the anxiety and the depression that you were facing.
Yeah, looking back now with the perspective I have, I've always been an anxious person ever since childhood. The telltale sign for me is everything that resides in my stomach. I will start to feel it in my stomach. I'll get nauseous. I'll throw up. I'll dry heave. And I would do that often before performances. I would just spend, 30 minutes or so in the bathroom dry heaving. Nothing was coming out, but that's just how my body was reacting to all of the adrenaline and all of the anxiety that I was feeling about performing, or just the stress of it all. I don't know what it was, but that was just my body's visceral reaction. And I thought that was normal at the time. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s and I was planning my wedding, and I thought, I kept thinking these things were situational. Like I was planning my wedding and I would start dry heaving and I was so anxious, and I thought, well, it's just because I'm a nervous bride. Or, before performing, I was like, okay, well, I'm just nervous to go out in front of a live audience. And so I thought it was just situational. And it wasn't until it became debilitating, which was after the birth of my second child, Felicity, that I realized, this isn't just normal anxiety. This is the type of anxiety that makes me unable to get out of bed, unable to eat, losing weight very rapidly, and unable to take care of my children and take care of myself. I lived every minute thinking, how am I going to get through the next 60 seconds? Like, I don't know how I'm going to make it through the whole day, much less, I just didn't know how I was going to get through each day, so that's when I knew it was a problem, when I was unable to take care of myself. And that's when I called on my support system. I'm very lucky that I had a great support system in my parents, who were not judgmental at all. They just wanted me to get better. And so they moved me and the kids and my husband into their home, and they nursed me back to health. And my mom, God bless her, she took care of 2 little toddlers at the time, as well as taking care of me and, forcing me to eat 3 meals a day and forcing me to go outside and take a walk every day. And then calling around to make appointments with therapists so that I could find a therapist. Like, it's so hard when you're in the thick of depression. It's so hard just to make a phone call, especially as an introverted, depressed person. It's doubly hard just to pick up the phone and make a phone call. So even just someone doing that for me was a tremendous help. And I credit them completely, my parents. I credit them with nursing me back to health and getting me onto this path of health and wellness.
In the book, you say it's actually very empowering to think about, I have the power to change my life. And I think that's just such an amazing message for other people who might be listening, who are struggling themselves right now. What other advice would you have for them if they maybe haven't sought help yet? Maybe they're embarrassed to say that they may have something wrong with them.
Great question. What I meant by that when I say, I have the power to control, I'm in charge, I'm in control of myself. It's because for so many years, I would feel like things were happening to me. The depression was happening to me. The anxiety was happening to me. My mood was determined by, how my stomach felt that day, or, my mood was determined based on the number on a scale, or, things were happening to me and I just felt helpless through so much of it. But once I got over that hump, I realized, no, you know what? I'm in the driver's seat. Like I'm in control. It's not the number on the scale. It's not the depression. It's not the antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication that is controlling me. It's me. I have the power to change my life. And it's a great feeling when you can accept that, when you can come to that conclusion and accept that the anxiety and depression is a part of you, but it's not all of you. that just sort of clicked. That was a moment. That was a light bulb moment for me, where I was like, wow, I am stronger than this, and I can get better. So as for advice for somebody out there who's struggling, just never give up, and just know that depression lies. It is a thief of your joy, and it is a thief of the truth. And depression just it tells you lies about yourself, and you have to know it's the mental illness. It is not you, and you just got to keep in mind it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You got to take it one day at a time and one step at a time, even if you're just taking it minute by minute each day. But one day you will wake up and suddenly it's like the clouds have parted and you will see the sun again for the first time. And it's a great feeling when you finally get there.
You mentioned taking antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications and talking with therapists as well. Was it a combination of these things, or was there one factor that really helped more than others?
It was really the combination, and I tried to drive that home in the book, and I hope I did, is that there's no one fix, there's no one cure-all for depression or anxiety. It's really the combination of things that helped me. When I started on the anxiety and depression medication, you can't just take a pill and be like, okay, I'm fine, everything's going to be fine now. No, it's not just that. And you can't just see a therapist but ignore, your sleeping habits and your eating habits and it's really a lifestyle change that you have to take into account. And so I can't really point to one thing, because everything I've done has been so helpful. My therapist, who I've been with for over 10 years, is just a lifeline for me. She has done so much for me in teaching me about myself and the way that I work and the habits that I can develop in order to get better and stay better. The anxiety and depression medication, helped get me out of a hole when I couldn't pull myself out of the hole. Running, which I devote a whole chapter in the book to running, made me feel stronger than I'd ever felt before. It brought me so much confidence and really just allowed me the time to kind of quiet my mind and focus and contemplate where I was in life and just pound out all of those feelings through my feet on the pavement. Running was a huge part of my recovery. And then, making sure that I got enough sleep every night. I know that sounds silly to say, oh, sleep, get 8 hours of sleep, but it's true. When you've been running on fumes for so long, especially as a new mom, when your sleep is so broken by that newborn that keeps waking up, every 2 hours to eat, sleep is critical. If you just make a habit, say, you know what, I'm going to get 8 hours of sleep for the next 4 nights and see how I feel at the end of the week. You're going to feel like a brand new person. Sleep is so, healing and restorative. I really value my sleep a lot now at age 43. So, that's my answer. All of the above. There's no one thing. It's everything. And it's been a lifestyle change for me.
We are very sadly coming to the end of Fuller House, and it's been such a treat to have all of the characters back again. I'm wondering how you feel about it ending and if you see yourself staying in Hollywood this time.
Oh, I feel so sad that it's over. It was very difficult, those final few weeks of filming. It was very difficult to say goodbye because we'd already done it once, with Full House. We knew how hard it was to say goodbye to the show then. And so it was doubly hard to say goodbye to it this time. I feel sad. It feels unfinished. I feel like we could have gotten a few more seasons out of it. The storylines don't feel finished yet. I feel like we could have told a lot more stories, especially with the new baby on the show. There was a lot there that we just never got to explore. I feel sad, but I'm also excited for all of you to see the second half of season 5.
Can't wait.
Last 9 episodes of this. Yeah, they haven't announced yet when they're going to be out, but it's a very bittersweet ending, but it's a very satisfying ending as well. So I think the fans will be sad, but also very fulfilled by how the series ends. And as for if I'm going to stay in Hollywood or not, I'm kind of going to take the same approach I did back, when I was finishing college. And then if there's a reason for me to stay in Hollywood, if there's a show that feels right, and if it's a good fit for me and my lifestyle and my family, I would love to stay in Hollywood. I think that would be great. But if for whatever reason it doesn't work out and it's not a good fit, I know that I will be 100% fulfilled, just kind of retreating back from the limelight and having a more private life again and doing a more quote-unquote normal job again. Probably working with students again because I loved that so much. So, it's to be determined. We'll see. This next year will be very telling in determining where my life will go from here.
What reactions do you get from strangers who see you today?
Oh, man, it depends on where I am. If I'm in a Target, people get so excited. Like every time I'm in Target, there's always a child or a family or usually the cashiers. They get super excited, and they just love to tell me their favorite episodes, or they love to tell me, if it's a mom, they're like, oh, my kids love your show, and they want to show me pictures of their kids, and it's great. I get lots of really good reactions. It's it's always funny to me. And sometimes, my daughter's a Girl Scout, so if we go to Girl Scout functions where there's a lot of Girl Scouts we don't know, like they'll just scream. Like they'll just start screaming. Some of them will start crying. Like these 12-year-olds have very visceral reactions to meeting a celebrity for the first time.
Oh, sure, I bet.
Yeah, so it's exciting. And then I meet a lot of people, like you said, who they feel like we've grown up together, and it's a great feeling, because I don't know them, but they feel like they know me.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful feeling that so many people love the show. We have such loyal fans, and they've been loyal for 30 years. And it's such a multi-generational show. Like new generations of fans are born every single year. Now, our generation has brought up kids with Fuller House, and then, in 10 years, they're going to have kids, and their kids are going to watch Full House and Fuller House. And I just think that's great that there's a show out there that so many generations of families can watch together. Yep. It's a very good feeling inside, that's for sure.
And the issues that you guys talk about on the shows are really undated. They're so common to all generations.
Yes, that I think is a huge appeal of Full House, especially, is that whether it's, not fitting in at school or bullying or pressure to smoke or, whatever, yeah, kids are still dealing with those issues too. And on Fuller House, we tried to modernize it a little bit more with the pressures of social media and social media bullying, and we tried to make it a little more modern because we didn't have social media back in the Full House days, so we had to modernize it a little bit. But yeah, you're right. Those I think are timeless issues that every family faces, and so it's a good show. I love it.
So do we. And Andrea, as you know, our show is called Nobody Told Me. So at the end of each program, we ask our guests, what is your Nobody Told Me lesson? So what is it that nobody told you about fame or mental health or wherever you want to take it that would have saved you from some tough times and some tough lessons?
Oh, that's a great question. So I could give a lot of different answers. Nobody told me that being a celebrity is as much about promotion as it is about talent. And I got mixed feelings about that.
Yeah.
If you read my book, you know how I feel about red carpets and, interviews and stuff like that. And nobody told me that you can be open about your mental health struggles and nobody will make fun of you. Like that was such a fear. That was such a fear for so long that I would be made fun of or judged. But ever since I opened up about it, never once have I felt judged. And nobody told me that was going to happen.
What do you hope people get from the book?
Well, my hope is that people will be able to relate to the book if they're struggling with anxiety and depression. I hope that it encourages people to open up and share their own stories and feel less alone and less afraid. And my hope is that we just create a culture of communicating with each other and feeling the freedom to share what we're going through, And I hope that in turn it will encourage people who aren't struggling at the moment with depression or whatever it is to really, really ask people how they're doing. I say this in the book. Ask people, don't just say, how are you, and then expect fine and then move on. Ask them, how are you doing really? Like, how are you really doing? And listen to people. And if something doesn't feel right, you reach out to them and you see what you can do for them, whether it's making a phone call or, giving them a little extra TLC or, setting a date to go out and have, a one-on-one chat, whatever it is. I hope that we can create this culture of openness and honesty and healing ultimately.
Mm-hmm. And how can people connect with you and learn more about the book if they're interested?
Oh, well, you can find me on Instagram. I'm at Andrea Barber, and I check my direct messages all the time, and I love reading them. I read every single one, even if I can't respond. And, I love it. I love reading people's stories. If you want to tell me your own story about your mental health journey, I would love to read about it. Or if you just want to send me a picture of your daughter doing the Gibbler Gallop, I love those videos too. I love all of it. It's great. So Instagram is the best place to find me. I'm also on Twitter and Facebook, but I don't check those as often. So probably Instagram is a good place.
Well, Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. This has been just as much fun as we thought it was going to be. Even more.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks. It's been great chatting with you, and thanks for having me on your show. I really appreciate getting this chance to chat with you about my life and my book, and you guys are awesome.
Well, you are too. Our thanks to Andrea Barber. Again, her new book is called Full Circle, From Hollywood to Real Life and Back Again. I'm Jan Black.
And I'm Laura Owens.
You're listening to Nobody Told Me. Thank you so much for joining us.